Hello, and a very warm welcome to all of you piano lovers the world over. Today I would like to make a tutorial video on what may arguably be the world's most popular piano piece, with the possible exception of Fur Elise. Both are by Beethoven, so you know that I am talking about the Moonlight Sonata. The title Moonlight Sonata was not given by Beethoven, it was given by the German romantic poet Rellstab, who said that to him the first movement sounded like moonlight shining on the waters of Lake Lausanne. But actually Beethoven was not thinking of anything, moonlight and roses and romance when he composed it. But that doesn't matter. You can think of anything you want. Whatever works for you is fine. But historically, we know that he wrote it in 1801 when he was 31 years old, still a young man, and in love with his student, the extremely beautiful Countess Guiciardi. Of course, it was hopeless for a penniless composer to be in love with a countess, and he knew that. And besides, he had become completely deaf, and he was also feeling miserable and wretched about his deafness, and was thinking of ending his life. And he went to Heiligenstadt, a suburb of Vienna, with the intention of shooting himself. He took a gun and everything with him. And it was a Sunday morning, and he saw the church bell, moving in the belfry back and forth, and he realized he could not hear it. So he almost put the gun to his head. But he didn't, because he felt that he had too much music inside him still to give to the world. So he returned to Vienna and announced that he was deaf. This is the historical background to the so-called Moonlight Sonata. And when, his friend, the aristocratic Schindler, told Beethoven, he said, all the girls in Vienna are buying your sonata because Rellstab had called it the Moonlight Sonata. And Beethoven laughed and said, if they only knew what I was thinking when I wrote it, they'd be terrified. So, anyway, he called it Quasi una Fantasia, almost a Fantasia, because it begins with a slow movement, whereas the traditional sonatas of Mozart and Haydn began with a fast movement, then a slow movement, and then the third movement was again fast. So he's departing from the tradition. So he called it Quasi una Fantasia, almost a Fantasia. When Schumann wrote his Fantasy in C major, about, I think, 30 years later or so, 35 years later maybe, he put the slow movement last. And after all the turmoil of the first two movements, I mean, the last movement of the Schumann Fantasy is heartbreakingly beautiful, the surrender that comes at the end after all the turmoil and the storm and the stress of the first two movements. Now, I've already told you about the Countess, to whom it is dedicated, and then Beethoven writes a lot of stuff in Italian, obviously, because of the Countess. Oh, play the movement with the dampers off from the strings the whole time. By this, did he mean, because he said senza sordino, without damper. Did he mean keep the pedal down from beginning to end? I don't think so. I think what he meant was don't play a single measure without pedal. But when the harmonies change, you can change the pedal. Finally, we come to the tempo. He writes 2/2 time, two, two count beats, not 4/4/4 one count beats. So it's really not in quadruple time, but in duple time. So it would have to be like this: 1, 2, 1, 2, and not as we might think, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, but 1, 2. Now, if you try to practice this with a metronome, you will find that you really can't play faster than 40. And 40 is the slowest. 40 beats to the minute is the slowest that a metronome can ever get. Anyway, that is about the tempo. You can set your own tempo. Just make sure it's not too slow. It shouldn't drag, but it should be slow. And it should be sad. So let's see. Okay, here goes. A little dissonance there. The triplets must be very smooth and soft, and they are throughout the 3 pages of the first movement, and they must be always smooth and soft, and the melody is above the triplets. You follow? It's not really a melody, it's a fragment. It's like teardrops falling from someone's face. A man crying alone in a darkened room with the windows closed. Now, so we had come to this point where we were at listen to the bass. Is at its highest point. means a pedal point on C sharp. We are back in C sharp. We are going back to C sharp minor with the pedal point on G sharp, which is the dominant, and the ascending triplets.